everybody. Tuesday, December 18th. Lovely 4-game slate for us to talk about. No shenanigans coming out of last night's games whatsoever. So that's good. Laffy, what's going on, man?
Dude, Dave Yeager legitimately played his starters for one rotation last night.
What a fantastic gentleman, man. I love it.
I mean, to be fair, Buddy Hield saw a second rotation and Bogdanovich saw 2 minutes in the second quarter, but Willie Cauley-Stein, Fox, Bielitsa, they saw one rotation and literally never came back. The starters, not including Buddy Hield, played a combined 28 minutes. 28 minutes overall. Not like, oh yeah, Bogdanovich saw 28 minutes and so did Willie Cauley-Stein. Yeah, they averaged 28 minutes. No, they played a combined 28 minutes. Unreal.
I don't know how you land on something like that. I can only imagine what it was like in the owner's box at like halftime of the game.
And
can we fire him now, like mid-game?
Yeah, but here's the thing, dude. The Sacramento Kings are playing good basketball for the most part, which is what I don't understand. Like, they're tied for the 8th seed with the Grizzlies. They're 16 and 14. It doesn't make sense why you would just, like, and I'm sure people will say, I'm sure you'll hear people say, dude, they were getting their asses kicked. Yeah, I get it. But are you really going to tell me that in any world, Ben McLemore and Scala BCA are going to be give you a better chance of winning, Troy Williams and Yogi Ferrell than Bogdanovich and Cauley-Stein and De'Aaron Fox and even Bielitsa? Like, no, that's ridiculous.
It's all insanity. I just don't know what's the end game here. I mean, does he finish this season as the coach of the Kings?
I mean, I don't know. Again, they have a winning record and they're a team that everyone expected to be in the gutter. So I don't know.
Scal played 29 minutes last night. It's the first time he's played since November 25th, where he played 5 minutes. I mean,
it's crazy.
I love it. I love the NBA, man. It's outstanding.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know what you like about that.
Any dysfunction coming out of Sacramento is fantastic.
It's crazy. Meanwhile,
it's constant.
Meanwhile, with Monday Night Football, that was even crazier. It worked in my favor. I got a dynasty league I'm in where first place is like 2,500. So I'm kind of hoping that I can pull this one off. I was up by like 25 or 25 going into it. He had Michael Thomas and Will Lutz. I had nobody left. And I ended up pulling it off by 5.
That'll work.
So good thing both of those offenses have completely stalled out. That game was atrocious. They actually, the interesting part about it though was that the Carolina Panthers ran back a intercepted 2-point conversion attempt from Drew Brees for 2 points. And I find it amazing that you can run that far and still only get 2 points. Like, they ran 105 yards for 2 points. It's crazy.
Seems so unfulfilling.
Yeah.
That's not even the biggest news in sports right now. It's craziness. Jose Mourinho fired as the manager of Manchester United. Is that not the first thing you saw when you woke up? I just saw it now.
I had no idea. Had no idea, and I could not care less. I'll tell you that much. I will tell you that much. I don't know who he is.
He's the manager of the team that my team put a hurting on this weekend.
Yeah, I mean,
and
I know Manchester
United is, now he doesn't have a job any longer.
I couldn't name a player on the team.
So one of I don't know, we'll say the 10 best players in the world plays for them, and he's just been benching him 3 out of the last 4 games.
Oh, that sounds wise.
Yeah. It'd be like, man, I don't even know what the example would be. It'd be like Tibbs. It'd be like Tibbs just not playing Karl Anthony Towns.
Yeah, having a really, really great second-year point guard.
Or De'Aaron Fox.
Use De'Aaron Fox, for example.
Yeah, that's a good one. But way better than De'Aaron Fox.
Well, yeah, sure. But what a dumb night. Really, I mean, I'm happy to take an L when it's yeah, he just played like shit. But he literally didn't play.
Yeah.
So these guys literally didn't play.
Yeah, what do you do? What do you say? It's just like, okay, well, we'll go on to Tuesday now.
Yep. I had people tweeting me that were like, "Dude, what happened?" And I'm telling, I honestly, you have a coach that decided just not to play his starters after the first rotation. I don't know what to tell you. I wish I had a better answer for you, but there really isn't one. They just didn't play.
It's really crazy to me that Fox like bared the brunt of this. By all accounts, he's like a fantastic person in the locker room, like a real like change setter, having a fantastic year.
Yeah,
like that can't go well. You want to bury Bielitsa or Willie Cauley-Stein, whatever, Bogdan, like whatever. Fox is like the face of the team. It's hilarious.
But it doesn't make sense that
like
why this day? Like, dude, teams get behind and come back from like 25 point deficits early in games all the time. Like if a team could be down 20 points and end up winning, it was the first half and they never came. I don't know what to tell you, man. I mean, there really is no reasonable or logical answer for it.
I don't get it. I'd be shocked if he has his job for the entire season.
You could be right. We'll see. But again, right now they're above 500. We'll see.
Well, you want to talk about this slate?
Sure.
4 games. A lot of low lights on both ends. Starting off, Pacers and Cavs is ugly. Closing out, Nuggets, Mavs. From a DFS perspective, not great. It's the 7:30 games that are going to carry the weight. Let's start it off in Indiana. Pacers 109.75 implied total. Cavs 97.75, which is super, super dreadful.
Yeah, because the Cavs are super dreadful.
There's not a lot of talent on that team. Anywhere. They're like a bunch of eighth men.
I expect them to get beat up pretty bad here. Anything can happen, right? Unfortunately, this is the only game that actually has a big spread.
Yeah.
But now that you have Oladipo back, this is a good basketball team, man. They're a good team. I think the Pacers, look, I'm not saying they're going to go on to win the finals and or even make the Eastern Conference Finals, but they're a good team. And they're going to put points on the board. And I think you look at a guy in Oladipo being back, that price tag, that's a bit inflated for me. But I do worry a bit about the blowout here because the Pacers have been notorious for being involved in blowouts all season long.
Yeah, I don't know how to manage this one. It's tough because obviously Indiana looks like the spot of what you want to grab out of this game, unless you want to roll the dice on whatever comes out of Cleveland. But like 9,600 for Oladipo on this short slate is a really tough sell. He could play 28 minutes. Like that's just he's so not necessary to beat Cleveland today.
No, he's not at all. Look, they were winning games. They weren't a juggernaut without him, but they were winning games without him. They can very much do so again. I have trouble really falling in love with anyone from the Pacers, even Ponytail Miles. I know that's the new nickname, which is, I was really disappointed when I saw that nickname. They could have done so much better. Okay, so he has a ponytail now. What genius thought Ponytail Miles? That's the name. I mean, come on now. You could do so much better than that, but I guess I'll go along with it just for the sake of not getting in an argument here. I mean, really, Ponytail Miles, you can't do better than that?
I mean, it's just so uncreative.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, okay, so what happens when you get dreadlocks? It's Dreadlocks Turner. I mean, it's just stupid, man. It's just stupid.
I don't know why, but I really like Dreadlocks Turner now.
Dreadlocks Turner sounds pretty sick. Like, I'd be all right with that, but it's still not creative, right? We can agree there. Yeah, he's playing well, but his price is coming up. I do like this spot, right? You've got no Tristan Thompson there. Like, I don't think Miles Turner's a terrible play, but we'll get into this. How deep is the center position? And it really comes down to that every night. Like last night, similarly, where you might have liked a bunch of different centers, but it was very hard to get away from, regardless of whether they panned out or not, it was hard to get away from guys like Cantor, or on some spots, Brooke Lopez at really, really cheap cost, or Karl Anthony Towns. So we have that issue a lot, but I think Turner's a fine play here. And then once you get to guys like Collison, and he's still a bit pricey. He was up at like 7K almost, which is insane, and he's come down to 5K.
Yeah.
But with Oladipo back in the lineup, his minutes are going to be all over the place. His production and usage are going to go through the floor. So I really don't feel comfortable playing someone like Darren Collison until he comes down to like a mid to low 4K range. And I'm serious about that. And Corey Joseph can siphon minutes. They were playing minutes alongside each other with Oladipo out. So you don't have that anymore. Unless Tyreek Evans sits out. Sorry.
Right. That will help for sure.
Maybe you get more of them playing alongside each other, but still, I don't feel supremely confident there.
Just got called 20 Burbot Engelman. That makes me nervous. What up, Tommy? Good times this weekend.
What's that?
Guy that we were hanging out with at the FanDuel event this weekend. Got pretty. I was knocking him back. I probably look like it too.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a good time.
I'm glad you enjoyed yourself. What's the point of going if you're not gonna, right?
It was a good time. So I'm not getting a lot of Sabonis. I'm not getting a lot of Turner. I'm not getting a lot of Oladipo. Take a guess who has the most ownership on the Pacers right now. Either site. Highest number. Not for me. Our projection.
Site.
Yeah.
I mean, as crazy as it sounds, I'm going to say Thad Young.
You would be close, but it's Darren Collison. 21% expected on FanDuel right now.
Well, what's he cost on FanDuel?
53.
I mean, fine. Go ahead.
Yeah.
It's all you.
All the pricing on FanDuel is a lot better than it is on DK for the Pacers today.
Right. I will just point out, though, that yes, Collison has had a few decent assist totals, since Oladipo returned. But in 3 games since Oladipo returned, Collison's taken a combined 9 shots. He went from playing a routine 30-plus minutes to 29, then 26, then 17. And he has 13, 27, and 14 fantasy points. I don't think it's and then work the blowout risk into the equation. I just don't think it's a very sensible call here. But
yeah, I'm underweight there. The 2 guys that I'm looking at the most are Bojan and Thad. Bojan 5,200 both sites, so I like that price on FanDuel. Thad at 6,500 feels heavy, but I mean the minutes are there, so got to play somebody in this game.
Yeah,
it's a scary game. I mean, I know it's obviously not Doug McDermott, but there are like if Tyreek sits, I guess I like Corey Joseph and Darren Collison more, but I don't trust this Cleveland team to keep it close. Do you like anything from Cleveland?
Not particularly, and I don't really know if you need to get a ton from this game. Okay, so go over to the Cleveland side, and then you have a bunch of similarities, not in the type of player that these guys are, but the type of production. You really don't know what you're going to get. I mean, Colin Sexton, because you have Colin Sexton now, and then you have Alec Burks playing like mid to high 20s every night, and he's just been all over the map in production. Matthew Dellavedova, you look at this guy's minutes, he's getting legitimate run. Like he's playing, he really is, dude.
I know.
Look at his minute totals, right? He played, I guess, what was it? He only played 1 game with him so far, but he played 22 minutes. I'd have to see. Actually, I'll tell you right now, just to make sure, because towards the end they blew him out, but that game was close through like 2.5, maybe 3 quarters. So Dellavedova though played He played 6 minutes in the first quarter, and then he played 4 minutes in the second. Oh no, 4, 5, 6. So he played 12 minutes in the first half. He played 12 minutes in the first half.
That's important.
So,
That's very
definitely important.
I've got him in for 22 minutes here.
Now, Rodney Hood had 2 early fouls to start that game, but still, like Dellavedova still played. He didn't sub in. He didn't sub in for him. It was Jordan Clarkson that subbed in directly for Rodney Hood and played the entirety of the first, basically, and then 4 minutes into the second. So Dellavedova probably would have gotten 12 minutes either way in the first half, which, that's definitely important. That's 22 to 24 minutes that's taken out of the rotation for someone like Sexton, who only played 30 in that game and had been seeing upside of a lot more recently.
I have to assume that Delly can't get like too many more minutes there outside of like just game problems, injury, foul trouble, something. I can't imagine that he's going to crest much higher than like 24 in a game in lieu of giving those minutes to Sexton.
I don't see any reason why he would.
Yeah. And mid-fours price is not desirable for him. Like, would you play Delly at all? Yeah. Uh-oh. Who's gone? He's gone. I'll keep talking. What's up, everybody? Laffy, you there?
Come in, sir. Do you read me?
I read you.
I had to change my Wi-Fi. Sometimes it switches over to the wrong one. Now we're getting a different guest connection.
I got you.
I'm going to
make sure your other one out of there.
Appreciate that. Sometimes I don't know what it is. Sometimes the Wi-Fi switches to the bad one, and I got to get back on board. Guy's playing tricks on me.
Ship you a new router as well.
Yeah, mine's pretty decent. I got good internet here. I pay additional for. I mean, don't get me wrong. They're robbing me blind.
Yeah.
But, at least I know it, so I'm not blind to it. They're just robbing me willingly. I'm being robbed.
What do you like the most from the Cleveland side? DK, it's tough. I don't like any of the pricing really.
Yeah, no, none of them stand out as great plays. Yeah, I guess like a guy like Nance, who in more competitive games was playing a lot of minutes. I say this a lot. The concern I have with Nance is that like you're relying really heavily on peripherals. Now, I will say I'm okay with that because I'd rather rely on peripherals than a pure scorer like Alec Burks. I'd rather rely on a guy that could score 3 points and give me 39 DraftKings points like he did than someone that can score 20 points and give me 21 fantasy points. So that I think Larry Nance actually, the formula for producing is nice for him. I wish he shot a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
I wish he scored a little bit more, but even in that game against the Sixers, Larry Nance, he played very sparingly in the first quarter off the bench, but he got 2 quick fouls, and then he didn't come back in for his normal rotation. So I think that had something to do with it. So I guess Nance, but there's nobody here that jumps off the page at me. Cedi Osman's been all over the map. Look, it's not that he hasn't been very good. He's just not very good, which is perfectly right, which is perfectly fine, perfectly reasonable.
0.68 fantasy points per minute over the last 30 days. That's garbage.
Yeah, that's really awful.
Real gross.
And Clarkson's been really solid. But like you said, it's not like his pricing is working in your favor either, right?
It is on FanDuel. So he's 5,400 on FanDuel.
Yeah, that's a lot friendlier. 61 on DraftKings. Is it terrible? No, but it's not like a mouth-watering salary.
No, you need a lot to go right for him to be able to return on that investment.
Yeah, even on a 4-gamer.
Yeah.
And Alec Burks is just, when you talk about, look, if you want, I think Alec Burks makes sense in tournaments. I really do, only because he's going to play 26, 27 minutes.
Yep.
We'll see what Delly's minutes do. It's still unclear. But I don't think they'll eat into Burks too much. He's going to play 26, 27, 28 minutes, and he's going to get up, maybe 10, 12, 13, if he's running right, 13 shots or so. And if he happens to fall into a decent game at that price tag, you'd rather, put it this way, you'd rather play him at that price than Sexton at his price, because they're both basically the same player, even though Sexton is probably going to shoot a little bit more on a more consistent basis.
Yeah, I have more Burks than I do anything else in Cleveland. 4,400 on FanDuel.
Right, and just because he's dirt cheap, right?
It's on a day like today, I don't really see many other options, and at least for a tournament, I mean, he could really put up numbers. Like he has no issue whatsoever with gunning.
No, not at all. The problem is, and I think this is the reason that makes this team so unappealing at times, is, and I get they're not the same player, right? But in terms of like an archetype of a guard, Clarkson, Sexton, and Burks are all shoot first guards.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yep.
Like, so it actually kind of makes sense that you would bring in a guy like Delly, who is the complete opposite of all of them. But it also makes sense, and we don't know yet because we haven't seen him play a close game with him. It also makes sense that maybe Dellavedova does play a consistent 22, 25 minutes a game because they don't have any good facilitators. Like Sexton and Burks and Clarkson. Clarkson might get a couple assists from here and there, 3 or 4 a game. But, dude, none of these guys are skilled passers outside of Delly. And Hood's the same way. Hood's the same guy. Hood, Sexton, Burks, and Clarkson are all shoot first guards.
Where is Rodney Hood next season? And how much money is he getting paid to play basketball?
I don't know, China?
That's really probably like...
I mean, I'm kidding, but...
maybe we shouldn't be kidding.
Yeah, I don't know.
He'd probably get more money to go play in China next year than he will for the NBA.
Where was he at last year where they were giving him minutes? And it was Cleveland. Yeah, they were going to give him minutes in the playoffs in a game that was pretty much out of hand, and he told the coach, no, he told Tyronn Lue, I'm not coming in.
Yeah,
like, sweet job, bro.
Great idea.
That'll help you. That'll help you in the future.
Yeah, just get out there, man. Yeah, I guess whatever. He's a millionaire now. It doesn't matter.
Yep. But no, this game's not that good. It's really not.
It's not a great fantasy game,
and it has the lowest total on the slate.
Yeah, I mean, Cleveland at 97.75 on my last update. We haven't had a ton of games this season where a team had under 100 implied total. So congrats to Cleveland for that one.
I know it's 4 games, but you don't always need to force yourself into making plays that aren't optimal.
Yeah. Ugh, it's an ugly game. Let's talk about at least a good fantasy game. Unless you have any other final Indiana Cleveland takes.
Move on.
Cool. Hawks and Wizards. Hawks 115.75 implied total, 120.25 for the Wiz. Now this should be pretty up and down. This is going to be the one that gets everybody's eyeballs, which makes me nervous, but big time pace game. You can't really ask for much more in a fantasy sense outside of the fact that Atlanta just simply isn't very good. Talk about the Atlanta side to start. John Collins, 8,200 now on FanDuel, 7,900 on DraftKings. I still love him. I love a lot of this game. There's just too many points to be had. Talk to me about Collins to start, since he's sort of the high watermark for the Hawks at this point.
Yeah, John Collins looks excellent, right? He looks really good. I mentioned earlier in the season that I was taking a wait and see approach with him once his price tag got up to like that mid-6 range. I mean, real early when he first returned.
Yeah.
To see what his role was going to look like. There's no reason that he shouldn't be seeing, 35 minutes a game. There's no reason he shouldn't be. But I don't know. I hadn't seen what it looked like with Trae Young in the rotation. And, if there's one thing about John Collins is that he hasn't been shy at all. He has last year had an 18% usage rate, 17% rebound rate. This year he has a 24% usage rate and a 17% rebound rate. He also has a 14.5% assist rate. Never been known as the greatest facilitator. John Collins, even in college, somebody that was a big time just points and close to the basket rebound type guy. But like last year, he attempted 8% of his shots from 3-point range. This year, 17% of his shots are coming from 3. Granted, he's not shooting well from long range, but he's taking more. The biggest thing though here is, as we talk about, guy lives around the basket. 58% of his shots are coming from within 3 feet of the rim. That's exactly the type of guy I want. He's shooting 75% at the rim, which means you have a good rebounder and you have someone that's going to take a lot of the shots around the basket and convert on high percentage field goals. But he's also rebounding well, and he's blocking shots at a decent clip as well, which I expect that to climb. His block rate is half of what it was last year. So John Collins can give you big numbers across the board, and I like fours like this that will live around the basket and give you that big point rebound double upside.
Yeah, with the pace of this game and sort of the quality of the shot selection, I mean, both of these teams are terrible rebounding teams on both sides of the ball. And he's going to basically have whatever he wants to do from a work perspective. If he wants to bust his ass, him hanging like a 15 rebound game here is not outlandish at all. He could go like a big double-double.
Oh, yeah. He could go 20-15 here, 25-15 here, and I really wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Plus, since the start of December, his numbers have only gotten better, right? You're only seeing him improve. Since the start of December, I was running it right now. Wanted to see if his usage was up. His usage is 27%. It's second to only Trae Young on this team, and his rebounding rate over that span is where are you, fella? Is 21% total rebounding rate with 1.125 fantasy points per minute. He's expensive, no question, but I still think there's meat left on the bone on a 4-game slate in this matchup. As you mentioned, terrible rebounding team in Washington, really the worst with Howard off the court. Just a bad defensive team. And who in that front court really is going to deter him from being able to produce solid numbers?
Absolutely no one. Not a soul there. I'm getting a lot of Bazemore, getting a lot of Dedmon, getting a lot of DeAndre Bembry, which I hate. But it's hard to not want a big chunk of this game. There's too many fantasy points to go around.
There are. I'm still going to limit how many Hawks are in one lineup, and the reason for that is kind of simple. I'll take just a second to explain it here.
Hit me.
Or at least where I'm at on it, is that this is a team that last game, used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 players. Granted, some of them came in a blowout, but even let's try and take a competitive game, right? So let's go to the 12th. Let's see how many players were used in this game, because this makes a difference. This makes a big difference. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 players played in this game. So it's not like some of these teams where you've got like a 9, 10-man rotation, or even a 10-man where one guy only plays a couple minutes. Now, you will get guys in this rotation that only play a few minutes, but you don't know who that's going to be on a nightly basis.
Right.
So is Collins going to get the run? Absolutely. Are guys like Dedmon worth it? Because if he does get the big minutes, he has monster upside, as we saw last game, no question. And he's a 1 fantasy point per minute guy, definitely. But I have to draw the line somewhere with how many of them are in my lineup. But maybe tonight makes it a bit easier to play more of them because they're playing a really bad team in Washington, and this game could actually stay competitive.
The only guy that I'm not really getting with any volume is Trae Young, who I got absolutely 0 of on my first crunch. Flat 0. I'm totally
I think
cool
that's probably I don't know if I'd be cool with that because he's very cheap here.
6,900 on FanDuel. Would you rather have Trae Young or Lonzo Ball for 6,800?
Trae Young. Okay, Lonzo Ball's coming off a triple-double, and then he went right back to posting less than a fantasy point per minute last game. I mean, if you were to really break down the numbers, and I won't go deep into it, but Trae Young has a significantly higher usage rate. He doesn't play with LeBron James, and even his assist rate this year is significantly higher than Lonzo. So if I'm getting them at the same price, which I am on DraftKings and on FanDuel, Lonzo's $100 more on DraftKings. Yeah, I honestly, I'd rather have Trae Young. And this isn't even to say that I love Trae Young. I mean, he's had some terrible games, but
yeah.
yeah, but I think I think he's the better play here, even with Jeremy Lin back, because if he does have a strong game, you're probably going to get your 35 minutes from him, 33 minutes from him, and he, I don't know, I just think, of course, Lonzo. Yes, we know he has a ceiling, but Trae Young's gonna go over 40 fantasy points more often than Lonzo is, and we've seen that be the case.
Ooh, that makes me nervous. He's been really bad.
Who?
Young. Point.
Yeah,
like I had to
but
really bring him down today because I was just dramatically over projecting him, and I'm still a full 1/10 of a point per minute above where he has been over the last 30 days. Like I can't justify having him projected much higher than that. So
that's fair.
I don't even know how to get to him.
I think if you want like 30, 35 fantasy points, go to Lonzo. And again, sure, feel free to reference that triple double. Go ahead.
You love Lonzo.
Look, I don't even think Lonzo is a bad player. I think that he's overvalued since LeBron has come to LA. That's all.
I agree with.
That's all I've been saying this whole time. And to be fair, I played Lonzo Ball the triple double night. Fortunately, it was a small slate.
Of course, you did.
He had 5,600. So I reaped the benefits of still hating the guy and getting a good game from him. But no, I don't play him all that often. He's up to 6,500. I do think he's safer. He's also in a pretty decent matchup. He's also in a game that has a high total. But I honestly, I think that Trae Young has a higher ceiling here at home in a game with a 236 total, and they're only 3.5 point dogs.
How many minutes do you have Trae Young playing right now? I could swing it a little bit.
Yeah, it's really tough because not Lin being back, but because with the blowouts, his minutes have been so all over the place.
Yeah.
But I still think in close games, Trae Young's going to play around 32 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, I have him in for 29 right now. By getting him to 32, he's probably a little bit more palatable.
Yeah. I mean, it's no guarantee, obviously, but
he's a guy that I would want to put a little extra randomness on if I were crunching at 150.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Talk me out of DeAndre Bembry for 4,300 on FanDuel.
And I don't.
I agree.
Well, the reason it's so tough is because he is really cheap. You know, he's 39 on DraftKings.
And he's had monster games lately. He's had bagels as well.
Yeah.
But
he's had like one monster game lately.
He's had like 4 in his last 6 or something stupid. 40, he went for 40, he went for 31. Those are big numbers on where his salary is now. 4,300 on it's the cheapest he's been since the end of November.
Yeah.
Price just keeps coming down, but I don't know. I hate him. I don't want it. Yeah. No. Mark Smith says, "Hey Josh, don't play Bembry. You're welcome." Yeah, you're probably right.
You probably are. It really comes down to what values on this slate, right?
Well, that's the problem with small forward today. LeBron is 11.5. The next closest guy to LeBron is Harrison Barnes at 5,600. Everybody is at 5,600 or below at small forward. So you're never going to find a bunch of guys from 5,600 and below at one position that like make you feel good. So I feel like I got to treat it like a shotgun and spray it across all these dudes.
How many fantasy points do you have him projected for?
Bembry?
Yeah.
I'll give you the DK number since I'm sure you have that in front of you. 21.8.
Okay. I have him at 19.8.
Okay. I have him playing 22 minutes.
I'll tell you right now. I have him at 20 minutes.
Okay.
So there.
So yeah, I mean there you go, right there. If I drop him to 19, we have the exact same projection for him.
Right. And really we have that's the problem. You could look at these rotations and be like, yeah, but dude, this guy only played Justin Anderson only played 10 minutes. You know, Vince Carter only played 13 minutes. Tyler Dorsey only played 15 minutes. Yeah, but those minutes cut into somebody like Bembry who could go from 25 to 19.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that's the big thing with guys like that. And that's what really makes them tougher to evaluate. So
That is, I mean, that really is the everything that matters here. The confidence
Right.
in the minutes for the Hawks rotation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And even with Trae Young, you have the same possible concerns.
Yeah. Ugh, it's murky. It's murky. Does Dedmon have power forward eligibility on DK?
He does, which is nice, but he's up to 5,600.
Yeah.
He's been 4,700 or below now for like a month and a half, and now he's shot up to 5,600 after that one big game. The silver lining here, the positive, is that he's played 30 plus minutes in 4 straight games and 5 of his last 6. But you know as well as I do, that could change in an instant.
Yeah.
And Alex Len could get those minutes. I still have some interest in Dedmon though, just because excuse me, if Dedmon does play 30 plus minutes again, he's been really consistent. Like he played 31 minutes, had 30 fantasy points, played 22 at 25, played 30, had 33. Then he played 32 at 16. That was a bad one. But then 28 against Boston, 31, 32 against Brooklyn, 52. It's rare that Dedmon gives you fewer fantasy points than minutes played. And given that he's played 30 plus minutes in 4 straight and 5 of his last 6, there's still a ceiling game to be had here for Dedmon, even at 5,600 with power forward eligibility. So I'm not totally off of Dedmon in a really, really, really good rebounding matchup, which I think means, as you pointed out, means more than a lot on this slate.
Yeah, he looks really good on DK at that price. I like him as well on FanDuel, 6,600, only a center, but I'm in. Like, it's just, I feel super safe there.
If Dedmon was 4,600, say, like on DraftKings where he's been around, I'd have him in every single lineup. And that's not hyperbole. I really would. I'd play him in every lineup. He's one of those guys I would just take the chance on and say, you know, fuck it, I'm playing him in every lineup because this is too good of a spot, too good of a per minute guy at that price. So at 56, that means I'm still going to have a lot. I'm not just going to max him out, but I'll still have a lot of Dedmon for sure.
Speaking of guys being played in every lineup, I think I've got one on this next team.
Hit me.
Bradley Beal is 8,300 on FanDuel today, playing probably 37 plus minutes.
Yeah, he's just been such a lock for those big minutes, right? I mean, minute totals over. Look at this, dude. 43, 38, 42, 33 in blowout. 44, 38, 39, 39.
Yeah.
He's going to die by the end of the season. We know Scott Brooks loves to run some of his starters into the ground, but you're absolutely right, dude. How do you, even at 85 on DraftKings, like, is it a tough ask at that price? A little bit, but you're locking in 40 minutes every time the game is even remotely close. It's really hard to avoid somebody like that. I mean, think about it. When you look at his per minute production on the season, he's not Giannis, he's not Embiid, right? He's not James Harden, but you're still talking about a guy that is averaging 1.11 DraftKings points per game or per minute across 40 minutes while you're up around 44 fantasy points, even 38 minutes. Like, that's just his season average.
Yeah. That says nothing if he's feeling good.
Right. Or facing the Hawks.
Right, exactly. In a gigantic pace team. Up fast. I can't get away from him. I can't get away from Markieff either. 5,500 on FanDuel. Again, like the bottom half of the position is just, it's empty. There's nobody. I'd rather just play people against the Hawks. Is as easy as it gets. John Wall is a tough sell at 10-4, and I'm still getting a ton of him.
Yep, pretty much. Let's talk about Morris for a second.
Sure.
You know, he left that one game with 11 minutes, played 27 minutes the game before that, had a bad game. 35 minutes against Boston, looked like garbage. Shot 2 for 11 against Indiana in 21 minutes, 4 for 13 against Cleveland. Recently, Markieff Morris has looked putrid, but that's kind of just more reason to play him here because I still expect him to have quite a bit of ownership in this matchup, but it's going to be down relative to what it would be if he's coming off 2 big games. And given the fact that he's probably going to play another 30 plus minutes, remember Otto Porter's still out. You're right. It's really tough to get away from Markieff Morris and John Wall, dude. He's not even he's 98 on FanDuel or DraftKings, which normally on a bigger slate I would just pass on, but he actually looks decent recently, a lot better. He's shooting better and more frequently. Yeah, basically all of Washington's in play.
Do you think Ariza's playing tonight?
I don't know, but that's I saw something that I felt like I thought he was going to be out, but I could be wrong. If he plays, then that'll be interesting to see how that works. But with Porter out, I think Morris still gets his minutes because Kelly Oubre's gone. So
Ariza, no note on Roto World. So I have him in right now for 28 minutes because I just think he has to be. He's not even a part of the FanDuel slate.
Well, here's my thing though. If you're putting him in, I would put him in for a lot more than 28 minutes.
If they weren't playing the Hawks, I'd probably agree, but this feels like a nice one where he could like just get into the flow and doesn't have to play the normal 38 minutes that Trevor Ariza plays. You're probably right.
Again, normally I'd agree. This is Scott Brooks though. Like this is just how I feel. I feel like Scott Brooks is going to be like, "All right, buddy, you're here.
Yeah.
You know what's going to happen 40 minutes later."
I mean, I could easily take minutes away from Sam Decker or Troy Brown and give Trevor Ariza, and it's not going to take much of a sell. I don't know enough right now to know if he's even going to be there.
Neither do I.
If we get word that he's like starting tonight or something, yeah, I'm going to jam that up to 33, 34, and he'll soak it up.
And if he plays, I expect him to start. But you could also take minutes even away from Satoransky. So
yeah,
I just feel like with Scott Brooks and knowing Trevor Ariza's track record of averaging like 35 plus minutes per game everywhere he goes, I don't even know if Brooks will care about breaking him in.
I mean, yeah, with Trevor Ariza, they're not going to worry too much about.
No, he's on a different team every 3 months. What's it matter?
He really is. Yeah, I love every bit of this game. Although we're projecting Jeff Green to have pretty healthy ownership on FanDuel, 30% right now. Not somebody that I'm getting to. So I don't know what to read, how to read into that, but I don't love it.
Well, for me, it totally depends on whether or not Ariza plays.
Like, would you rather have Jeff Green at 5,300 or Harrison Barnes at 5,600? Assuming Ariza plays, we have him in our ownership projections. So, with that assumption,
assuming Ariza plays, I'd rather have Harrison Barnes.
Right. Same. What about Bojan? Bojan or Jeff Green, separated by $100?
Assuming Ariza plays, I'd rather have Bogdanovic.
Yeah, same.
Like Green is coming off of a couple good games, right? But I still cannot discount having guys like Beal and Wall, and then in the lineup, and then Ariza, who is not a high usage guy but will play. Like I'd expect him to play huge minutes if he does play here.
Right.
So no, not that high on Green.
Okay.
If Ariza's out though, that's a totally different story. Then I would definitely have more interest in Green, and I'd have him over probably both of those guys actually.
But I don't disagree there. If Ariza's not playing, Jeff Green's minutes become solidified. Essentially a certainty. Instead of, he could play 20 minutes tonight if Ariza plays.
No doubt. If he does, if Ariza's out, you put him in for like 31, 33 minutes.
Yep. Wall, Beal, Morris, Satoransky. That's where I'm giving all of my exposure now. I can't take Trevor Ariza even if I wanted to. He's not on FanDuel. 4,600 on DK. You care?
If he starts, put it this way. If he starts, I definitely would play him over Satoransky. I know they're different positions, but I would absolutely play him over Satoransky. No question about it. Satoransky is not a good per minute guy. Playing in the starting lineup is going to make things very difficult on him. I mean, you look at his last game. So 29 fantasy points isn't bad. No, he played 46 minutes though.
Yeah.
Right. He played 46 minutes just to get close to 30 fantasy points. That's not to say that Ariza is a juggernaut when it comes to per minute production, but at least I know that if he plays 35 minutes, he's not going to kill you, especially not in this matchup. So I would definitely if Ariza plays, I'd play him over Jeff Green. I'd play him over Satoransky. I think it's an easy way to look at it. Although I like Marquise Morris above him.
I would agree with everything you just said.
All right. Yeah. So we don't know the scenario, but we can at least break it down from a couple angles.
Right. Want to move on to Brooklyn Lakers?
Let's do it.
112.75 implied total for the Nets, 114.75 for the Lakers. So 2-point favorites in Brooklyn. These two middle games at 7:30, man, are so much more appealing than the bookends of this slate.
Oh, no question. You could legitimately just play guys from these two games and feel pretty good about your lineup.
Yeah. Speaking of these two games, pace up spot for Brooklyn. D'Angelo Russell, this pricing is fantastic. 8,100 on DK, 7,300 on FanDuel.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Tale of two sites. It's the whole damn team. Dinwiddie, 7,100 on FanDuel, 7,600 on DK. Rondae Hollis Jefferson, 5,600 and 5,700. Like, everything's flip-flopped.
What about Jared Allen?
He's 6,000 on FanDuel, 5,500 on DK.
Okay, so that one is like actually a bit more reasonable.
Yeah.
Dude, Dinwiddie's just significantly outplaying D'Angelo Russell. I know Russell is coming off a good game, but aside from that, like if you've watched any of these games, and unfortunately I have, Dinwiddie has been the energy. He's injected the energy off the bench to push them past teams like Philly, where he scored 39, past Washington, where he had 21, 4 and 6, or 27, 4 and 6. He had 25, 3 and 6 against New York. They beat Toronto. He had 17 and 8. Like, dude, Dinwiddie's looked really good. Now, that said, I have a real tough time paying 76 for him on DraftKings. Like,
yeah, I don't really like paying the 8,100 for Russell either. I think both of these guys are really disgusting plays on DraftKings.
No question. But I'll tell you what, though, when Dinwiddie, even when he was 65 against Washington, I not only talked about him in the deep dive, but I had quite a bit of him, because 65, there's still a ceiling to be had for Dinwiddie, like with the way he's played. 32 minutes at 6,500 is not a bad price. But when you shoot up close to 8K, that's totally different.
Yeah. So who would you prefer here, Russell or Dinwiddie on FanDuel at least? Russell, $200 more expensive.
Yeah, I think, well, so they're not the same position, which makes it a little bit difficult.
Right.
But I'd probably go, I'm just trying to look at the actual depth of these positions, and I think you could really pretty easily make the argument that with Oladipo at 9.6, Beal's a good price, but other than that, it's not the deepest position. Kent Bazemore is up around 7K.
Yeah.
I would say Russell is your guy there, but
I agree.
But I think it's, and by the way, Bazemore is playing well. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying it's not like he's a just lock it up every lineup guy at that price.
No, he's still Kent Bazemore.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. No question. I think that just a big thing to consider here is, just because Russell's starting does not mean that, he's locked in the 30 plus minutes. It doesn't mean that Kenny Atkinson's just going to let him run every single game. We've seen that to be not the case. And Dinwiddie, when he outplays him, we've seen what happens. So that's all. But I think just because he's shooting guard eligible and not really that much more expensive, I'd go Russell there.
Are you as on Jared Allen as the public seems to be? 22% expected ownership on DK right now.
Yeah, I think this is a really good bounce back spot for Allen. Now, obviously, with Atkinson, you don't know what's going to happen. But if we get Allen back to his regular playing time, then I definitely think there's a case to be made that he's one of the better values on this slate. I definitely do. Look, he's not a great scorer, but this is not a bad matchup for him either. I mean, you have JaVale McGee, who's a good shot blocker, but aside from that, he's not the most formidable center. He doesn't really concern me all that much. The Lakers have been crushed in terms of points allowed, the most points to centers this season. They're allowing the fourth most or third most rebounds to centers. They've given up, a lot of pretty important numbers here, the second most blocks to the position. So like there is a very real path for Allen to get back on track. He just needs to get the minutes. Like he can't play 16 minutes. He needs to play 28 minutes, 26 minutes to get there because he's not good enough to salvage his game with 20 minutes of playing time.
Would you rather be playing Jared Allen or Dwayne Dedmon on DraftKings today?
Dedmon, because Allen's minutes are no safer than Dedmon's right now.
Agreed.
Definitely Dedmon.
Okay. I just saw that they were, two guys, same position, essentially, separated by $100.
Right. Yeah, both have good matchups too. I like Allen better though. Or I'm sorry, I like Dedmon better. It's not to say I don't like Allen, but I do like Dedmon better.
Gotcha. What are your thoughts on Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, which I know it's a much tougher sell again on DK, where he's $100 more expensive, but $5,600 on FanDuel strikes me as the type of matchup where they're going to have him on the floor more from a defensive side of the ball, try to be a LeBron stopper, so to speak. He's a guy that I get all the time, and I'm never really excited about it, but this feels like an okay spot for him.
Yeah, why would you be excited about it, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Kenny Atkinson's been like begging him to shoot more threes for a couple of years now, and he just refuses to do it. Which would develop his game to a point where you'd feel a little bit more comfortable, expand his range out a bit. He doesn't do it, so you have kind of a limited skill set from how he produces. Even though I think Hollis-Jefferson's a pretty damn good overall player, but like everyone else on this team, the minutes are so volatile. Like you just never know where the minutes are going to come from, and I think a lot of that comes due to the fact that they play a lot of guys, like an 11, 12-man rotation here, and they can kind of plug in whoever they want. There's no direct substitute. There's no direct backup for any one player, and that makes things difficult.
3 out of the last 4 games for him into the 30s in fantasy points. He had 31 against the Hawks in just 23 minutes, so I'm hoping that can continue to trend positively. Yeah. Price is still down.
Go ahead.
No, you're good.
I hate to be that guy, but if I play Rondé Hollis-Jefferson, he'll play 7 minutes and have like 5 fantasy points. It just feels that way. It just feels that way with RHJ. I know it's obviously not something that means anything, but it feels that way.
Yeah, it doesn't shock me. Do you want any other part of this? The bottom half of the Nets had some value on DK if you're interested in, Allen Crabbe potentially. Whether or not he's on the floor or not is up in the air at this point, questionable.
Yeah, I'm not particularly.
There's not really anything else here. It's not like people are going to be. Well, DeMarre Carroll, 15% expected ownership. What do you think of DeMarre Carroll tonight? Apparently,
yeah. If the Crabbe plays, I'll probably have a little bit just because he's cheap and sometimes he shoots well. Rarely, but sometimes he shoots well. With Carroll, could you use him off the bench? See, this is what's interesting to me. If you're not using Hollis-Jefferson to guard LeBron, your next best option would be Carroll or even a guy like Dudley. They actually have a few guys that like no one's going to stop. You don't stop LeBron. You just try to slow him down, right? And we all know that. But even a guy like Dudley, what Dudley's very good at is he's a smart basketball player. He's not good. He's pretty heady in that he's been around long enough to know how a defense works, and we've seen that a lot. Like if you just watch him play, it's tough to do, and I don't advise doing it. Like why would you ever watch Jared Dudley play basketball unless you have to? But they have a few guys here that they can probably just like try on LeBron. It doesn't mean it's going to work, but maybe they'll have more success with one of these guys. If it turns out being DeMarre Carroll at his price, then that'll make him interesting. If I'm playing Carroll, though, I'm hoping he can get me like upwards of 25 fantasy points, and I would expect no more. I think that's a very realistic perspective to take here.
I think so, too. It's hard to really want to prioritize this bottom half of Brooklyn because there's too much up in the air.
Right. I think Rodion Kurucs is interesting though. If Crab is out, he's played 30 and 28 minutes over his last couple games. And
He's been a
you know,
0.86 fantasy points per minute over the past 30 days. If he
yeah,
has the ability to get the time, he's certainly interesting at 4,400 on
right.
FanDuel, 4K on DK.
4K flat on DraftKings, yeah.
I mean, obviously, the caveat is you need to know that Alan Crabb is not playing.
Of course, yeah, and I think we'll have that news. You know what? Here's another thing though. It's unlikely that you're going to have huge exposure to the only 7 p.m. game anyway. So,
Right.
like you can, if you're on DraftKings, you can make that swap pretty easily. But no, I think he's interesting, and he's also someone that while he isn't shooting great from 3, will attempt some, and if he gets hot, you could definitely get some decent numbers. But he's not rebounding that poorly, and maybe you rack up a few steals and blocks. I guess the point here is it's not like he's all that much riskier than Damari Carroll,
Right, exactly.
or Crab, or even Hollis Jefferson if you're taking a point per dollar perspective on it.
Yeah, I would say I would probably rather have him than Rondé Hollis Jefferson if we knew that he was going to be getting that, mid 20s ish minutes.
Right, given their salaries, yeah. I mean, he's played 28 and 30 minutes. That's not bad at all.
No, not at all. I mean, if you know that he's getting 28 minutes tonight, he's probably one of the more popular players of the slate just because of his price.
You would think so, yeah. Against the Lakers in an extreme pace-up spot, which would help someone like him that jacks up a bunch of threes if given the opportunity to.
Let's talk about those Lakers. LeBron James, 11-5 on FanDuel, 10-6 on DraftKings. Would you rather have John Wall or LeBron James tonight? Obviously, I know different positions.
Yeah, no. It's a good question. I was actually going to ask you if you didn't ask me. Still LeBron here.
Okay. I have John Wall projected higher than I have LeBron James.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I think the one reason that it would be easier for me to play LeBron is that I could still get Beal in there and then not feel too badly about it. But I have LeBron for 3 more fantasy points than John Wall. Now I only have him for like 1.5 more fantasy points than Nikola Jokic, who we'll get to shortly. But LeBron coming off that garbage game, that garbage second of a back-to-back game against Washington, where Wall went for 40, actually.
Yep.
I just think I feel like this is a spot where LeBron, look, you got a bad game from him. Okay. For me, it's like, are you playing the match? Are you relying that heavily on the matchup for John Wall? Or are you going to go with somebody like LeBron James, who has just far more consistently provided you with 60+ fantasy points, right? Like LeBron's put up 60+ in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of his last 10, whereas John Wall's probably done it once, or John Wall's probably done it twice on the season. Actually, 3 of his last 10. He's looked better lately, and I know his last 2 games have been very good, but I just think LeBron is a far more consistent guy when you're looking for that upside. But I guess it depends on their price points. So LeBron's 11-5 on FanDuel and John Wall's 10-4. So that's still a pretty decent disparity. And then it's an $800 difference on DraftKings.
Yeah. How many minutes do you have LeBron playing?
36.
Okay. See, I have him at 34 right now.
Okay. Yeah. It's funny you asked that because no, I don't want to put him any lower. I don't think I'm going to have him any lower than 36 because I expect this game to be really competitive, and I would be really surprised if it isn't. And LeBron James in very close games generally always gets 36, 38 minutes.
Yeah. I just bumped him up 1 to 35. I feel a little bit more comfortable there, but really
it makes sense.
And at that point, then by just moving him that 1 minute, he is now ahead of John Wall. They're
right.
A coin flip for me from a points perspective.
Well, wait, he's ahead of John Wall on fantasy points or points per dollar?
Fantasy points.
Okay.
Raw total. Ooh. The guy I got the most of in this game, though, is your boy, Mr. Lonzo.
Yeah, I figured you would.
6,800 on FanDuel, 6,500 on DK. There's just not a lot out there at point guard tonight. I don't love Jamal Murray. Then I'm spending more money on Spencer Dinwiddie. We've gone over Trae Young at this point. And after Lonzo, then you're getting down into the Darren Collison, Collins, Sexton, Satoransky group. So,
hey, have at it, fella.
The minutes are there. That's the part that's appealing. They're running them out there.
Yeah, on FanDuel, he's a good play. Of course he is. You don't really have a whole lot of alternatives unless you want to pay $8,100 for Jamal Murray, and
Right.
I just don't think really it doesn't seem very tenable here. So Trae Young, I think, is very close to Lonzo, but between Wall, Young, and Ball, those are your three guys pretty much. And then I'd mix in a little bit of Dinwiddie because he's shown that he's got a pretty high ceiling, given that he's playing 30-plus minutes in close games. But, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Now, if we find out that Barea is out, then Jalen Brunson becomes a very interesting guy that sort of doesn't exist to me right now, but could if that happens.
I can't, man. I can't do it. The big thing with Brunson for me, first of all, if Devin Harris was out, even though Harris only plays like 18 minutes, it's 16, 17, 18 minutes a game. The thing with Brunson, it's like he might be the de facto point guard or probably shooting guard. God, he's just so bad.
Yeah, he hasn't been great. It's been rough. It's been real rough.
In order for him to get you 25 fantasy points, he literally needs to shoot 60+% and then do things that he wouldn't normally do, which is grab 2 or 3 steals and rack up a bunch of assists that normally aren't going to happen. It's tough, but no, look, I don't think you're wrong. It's a 4-game slate. If that happens, then yeah, you have to consider him, but it doesn't feel good at all getting away from even Alonzo or a Trae Young, because I don't think that either of them are overpriced to get to go to Jalen Brunson. I think that's what makes it feel really bad.
So what do you like from this Lakers side? Obviously, I think JaVale's price is standing out pretty aggressively, 4,700.
Yeah, if JaVale plays.
If he plays, yeah.
Yeah, he's definitely, because JaVale's one of those guys that can give you pretty good numbers in a short period of time. And on a slate like this against the Brooklyn team that struggled against opposing centers, JaVale does stand out. I agree with you 100%. I mean, Brooklyn, second most points allowed to centers this year, most rebounds. They're allowing 17.9 rebounds a game to centers. And here's another one. No team, only actually, oh no, I had that wrong. They're allowing 2.5 blocks to centers per game, which is still quite a nice amount. JaVale McGee could put up decent numbers here for sure. And it'd be awesome if we got the minutes from him. We don't know if we would, but I do agree with you that he has that he merits consideration. The problem though is, again, who are you fading to get to him? I guess center's not that great on FanDuel.
No, it's not.
Because some of these guys are very expensive compared to what we expect from them.
Yeah, it's just like a mess of guys in the sixes, whether it's DeAndre or Dedmond or JaVale or Mason Plumlee now, Jared Allen. Mm-hmm. It's not appealing.
Yeah, I mean, I think DeAndre Jordan, just given how cheap he is on DraftKings and FanDuel, is viable, even though it's not a good matchup and it's not a good rebounding matchup, but he's just cheap. I guess we can get there. Where are you at on the Lakers? Because this is just a team, dude. I'll tell you, I have trouble. I always have trouble with this Lakers team because I had no interest in paying above $8K for Kyle Kuzma that. And he's come back down to earth a little bit in price, but I mean, he's another guy that you need like 25 plus real points from him to get where you need him to go. And I don't love him at this price point. I think we can do better. I mean, wouldn't you rather play John Collins 10 times out of 10?
Oh, without question. I got 1% Kuzma on my crunch.
Right.
7,700 on FanDuel. Right. He's 500. Kuzma's $500 cheaper than Collins. And I have Collins 7 points ahead of him.
Right. 400 cheaper on DraftKings.
Yeah. It's a no for me. Collins there is a no-brainer.
exactly, which just makes Kuzma really tough to. I mean, you want to put him in the same lineup, do what you got to do, but I don't love it.
No.
So LeBron James and Lonzo are the two guys, and then
Yeah.
aside from that, uh, Josh Hart, dude, his minutes have come down because he's so ineffective. So it would really just be like sprinkle in some McGee if he plays.
Yep.
I guess let me ask, if he doesn't though, would you consider Tyson Chandler?
You probably, I mean, you have to in a way, right? I don't think he
Yeah.
becomes like the best center of on the board, but if JaVale's out, like I mean, Tyson Chandler's going to soak up whatever he can physically soak up, and then they're going to go to Mo Wagner or whatever.
Zubats. Yeah, dude, I would love for Ivica Zubats to get some minutes. This dude was a blast last season. He was he was a per minute guy 2 years ago. He was right below a per minute guy last year. Um, if he obviously, I don't expect it to happen, but who knows if McGee sits and Zubats happens to get into the starting lineup and play like 20 minutes at dead min. I'm just throwing it out there. That would be awesome, and I would play quite a bit of him.
You're more confident in Zubac getting that over Mo Wagner?
No, 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 no. Of course not.
Okay.
But they're both. I mean, really, they're both pretty much in the same role. Like, look at them. I mean, did Wagner play more minutes last game?
He played 17, but it was also
Right.
a blowout.
Right. So I don't know. I mean, if you look at their minutes, they both will get some DNPs, and they both can play like 3, 4, or 10 minutes,
Yeah.
depending on the score. So no, I don't really have much confidence. What I do have confidence in is that I wouldn't expect Tyson Chandler to play 30 minutes.
No.
I think he'd probably play like 24 minutes. I would consider Tyson Chandler in this matchup for sure if he starts.
Tyson Chandler played 28 minutes on December 5th. That's the most he's played over the
Since the
past
Lake.
month. So
Yeah.
let's consider that like the ceiling.
Agreed. That's why I feel more comfortable putting him around 24
Yep.
if JaVale's out.
Yeah, agreed. And at that point, yeah, I mean it's at least worth a look against a Brooklyn team that hasn't been good against
Yeah.
centers in years.
Right, exactly.
I mean that's been the narrative for a long time.
If Chandler gives you, 24, 23 fantasy points on this slate, this actually could be a really high scoring slate though, just based on a couple of these games.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's a horrible idea to throw him into some tournaments, because it could just be one of those rogue 10 rebound, 10-point games from Chandler. And on DraftKings, that'll do you pretty solid with the bonus and just given that he's so cheap.
Yeah. Any Lance?
No, I don't have any of him. No. Do
Okay.
you?
Just a little bit, 4,300. And again, it's just the fact that you kind of got to rotate through small forwards today because it's LeBron and then a $6,000 price cap.
I think I was actually too quick to say no there. Because Josh Hart is losing that run, I think we're probably going to continue to see the 23 to 25 minutes from Lance. Lance is 100% a better per minute guy than Hart, and he's cheaper. So you know what? No, let me take that back. I think you're right here. Is it you don't have confidence in him? Of course not. But assuming that we continue to see Walton, pull back the reins on Hart, which he should be doing. It's the right move. I mean, Hart's just not been good at all, and he doesn't contribute anywhere outside of maybe a few made 3-pointers.
Yeah.
Stevenson is the guy that if he gives you 23, 25 minutes, he can give you 30 fantasy points. I'm not saying he will, but we've seen him do it so many times in the past. And I think you're right on that. Lance Stevenson's perfectly fine at 3,800 on DraftKings. He's 43 on FanDuel.
Yeah, 43.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's reasonable for sure.
Yeah, it's fine. It's we'll see. I don't mind if I get him. He's not like the first guy you put in the lineup, that's for sure.
Right, of course. No, he's the last, honestly.
He's the byproduct of whatever else you do.
If you have 38 remaining on DraftKings and you really love your lineup, Stevenson's not a terrible play in a game that has a 228-point total.
Exactly. Want to close this out? Nuggets and Mavs?
Let's do it. I don't know how much we're going to have to talk about here, honestly. I'm curious to see where you stand on this game.
I have very little interest out of one person, and I don't know why I have this much of this person, so We'll get there.
Interesting.
Denver Nuggets.
Who is it?
Let me give the deets.
All right,
106.5 implied total for the Nuggets. 101.5 for the Mavs. This is not an appealing fantasy game. Both teams fantastic defensively. You don't think about it like that for Dallas, but they've actually been better than Denver at limiting fantasy points per possession over the season, which is kind of insane. But both teams fantastic defensively. Everyone on Denver is priced better on DraftKings. It's just a sea of much better prices. Jokic 11-1 on FanDuel, 9,700 on DK. Yuck. Jamal Murray 8,100 on FanDuel, 6,600 on DraftKings. These are like, it's hard for us to even talk about the Nuggets because it's two completely different conversations.
It really is. One thing though, I know I've talked about this a lot, but there's something strange about the Dallas Mavericks this season. At home at home this season, their offensive rating is a 112.9. They're averaging 112.9 points per 100 possessions. That's 8th best in the league, right? It's 0.1 points per 100 worse than the Rockets and 0.3 points per 100 possessions worse than the Golden State Warriors. Their defensive rating at home is a 105. It ranks 9th best in the league. They played the 17th fastest pace. You take them away from home. Usually home road splits to me don't mean something, but this team has been polar opposite. On the road this year, Dallas has the 3rd worst offensive rating. They go from 8th best to the 3rd worst. They're averaging 12 fewer points per 100 possessions on the road. 12 fewer points, which is insane. And their defensive rating stays pretty, it's 13th in the league or 14th in the league on the road. So not a huge difference there. But they also go from playing at home, the 17th fastest pace, to the 9th fastest pace on the road. They're running 102 possessions per 48 at home or on the road, and 100 possessions per 48 at home. So just some odd numbers to break down there, but they've been markedly worse offensively on the road compared to at home. And it's not 12 points per 100 is a lot. I mean, that's insane.
Oh, it's almost like the numbers are wrong because it's so dramatic.
Exactly, but it's not. If you look at them too, though, like remember I said Phoenix would win outright?
Yeah,
they won by 10. Phoenix beat them outright they beat them by 10 in that game. It was in Phoenix. Thanks, bud. But I'm saying they lost in New Orleans by almost 30 points. They're a really bad team on the road, but it's just so strange that the defense is pretty consistent. It's pretty static no matter where they are. But the offense, it's such a stark contrast. You have to wonder like what's going on. But 12 points per 100 possessions to me is, you can try and explain it away any way you want, but even noise doesn't explain a number that dramatic. Like you can't just it's just noise. That's
something's going on there.
Something has to be going on.
A lot of points. Talk to me about what you like on Denver, because I'm generally indifferent because of the FanDuel pricing. But on DK, I mean, there's a lot of ownership here. Jokic is heavy chalk. Mm-hmm. Jamal Murray is heavy chalk. Plumlee, Morris, Hernan Gomez, and Lyles all above 10% ownership. Anybody standing out to you as like the clear direction you want to go?
I think the really interesting thing on DraftKings is Murray is 66, Lonzo Ball 65, Trae Young 64. They're all separated by $200 from one one extreme to the next.
Yeah,
that's pretty wild.
That's probably the answer to who wins the tournament today.
You know what? You're probably right. It's tough though, because it's funny. All three of these guys are very similar, not in terms of their play style, but in terms of they could all go for 18 fantasy points. They could all go for 35, or they could all go for 50 plus. Yeah. It's, right. They're all they're all over the map. I think the play on DraftKings would really just be to spread exposure out to all three of them. And like, if you're playing one lineup, you're just going to have, or two line, you're just going to have to take a stand.
Yep.
And play who you think makes the most sense. If you're already playing two Atlanta Hawks, don't play Trae Young in that lineup,
Exactly.
right?
Diversify.
Exactly. So there are ways to go about making that decision easier on yourself. If you're maxing out or you're playing 20, 30 lineups, then I would spread it out a little bit because all of these guys are in quality matchups. Murray's probably the least appealing out of all three of them, but it's not terrible. And they're all priced reasonably. So that's where I'm at on them. I don't think there's a clear differentiator that makes one of them that much more reliable or that much more consistent of a play.
I do not disagree with you one bit. I mean, my aversion for Trae Young aside, I'm more in the minority of taking that stand than others. I understand the appeal and understand how you really do just need to draw a line in the sand between these three guys because it's essentially, I mean, you're looking at $200 separating three people, and they're going to be kind of like the linchpin of whether or not you're at the top of a leaderboard or you're not.
Yep, no question. And one more thing, if we were to talk about what differentiates these guys, Jamal Murray is not a per minute or 1 fantasy point per minute guy this season, whereas Trae Young is, and Lonzo Ball unsurprisingly isn't. But Jamal Murray and Lonzo Ball are both basically locked in to 35 minutes in a close game, whereas Trae Young isn't. And Trae Young could definitely lose minutes to the bench.
Yeah, Murray in particular now with Denver having to soak up all sorts of additional minutes to people like Swaggy P.
Exactly.
Like they're thin now.
He played 24 minutes against Atlanta, but that was Mike Malone said it's the worst game he's seen his team play ever. So that was just like, get off the court and don't talk to me. Outside of that, very consistent minutes every single night for Jamal Murray. So yeah, I like him tonight. And Jokic is 9,700. I mean, what is he? 11-1 on FanDuel. There isn't a healthy center within $3,600 is the difference between Jokic and the next closest priced center on DraftKings or on FanDuel.
Yeah.
Whereas on DraftKings, it's 1,800 between him and John Collins.
Yeah, as long as Jokic doesn't have a ceiling game, you're probably just going to be better off spreading yourself across the middle section of center. It's your only word on FanDuel.
Oh yeah, totally agree.
So whether or not he plays is, I guess, up in the air right now. I got just ungodly amounts of Juancho Hernan-Gomez.
Ungodly.
For real. Insanity.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah. So he's got one of the higher fantasy point standard deviations of anybody, I mean, basically in this game, but at small forward in particular. So when I run my sim to see how often people hit a target score, he gets there a lot as a GPP play because there's a lot of variance in his outcomes. One of the most highly variant players in the league. You don't ever think about it like that because he's 0.73 fantasy point per minute guy.
Right.
But it's because sometimes that's a 0.4 and sometimes that's a 1.
Right. Yeah, something like 1.4, yeah.
So if he's in, he will likely be the small forward I have the most. And that is the scariest shit in the world. Yeah. I can't justify it. It just, he fits a mass entry tournament for me more so than anybody else I can see, just because he tends to have wild extremes in his performance.
I don't have an issue with it. Did he didn't leave that game. Did he? I'm trying to say, I'm wondering.
He's got an abdominal strain.
Right. I just don't know if he left that game early because he was injured, because we don't really have like confirmation. And it's like, oh, apparently he picked it up during that game. Or was it because he shot 0 for 5 in 28 minutes and had a bad game? I think his minutes are pretty secure, though, if he's healthy. So
they have to be. They just don't have enough bodies.
Yeah, they don't. So I can see it.
Yeah, it scares me, but once I looked at it a little bit further and dug in, it's like, okay, he's the kind of guy I want to have in a GPP because if he bagels, but I get a lot more variance out of that than going to like Chetty at a couple $100 cheaper, or Joe Harris or Rodney Hood or Sam Decker. Like, there's nothing there.
Right. No, and they're running 9-man rotations.
Yeah, so hopefully that's the game where things go well for him, but we'll see that a lot closer tonight on when you guys go over it on the deeper dive, or Chris and I tonight on Live Before Lock.
Yeah, for sure. And with Plumlee, you're getting at that price now where it's like, all right, I'm going to pump the brakes. That's a bit tough.
6,200 on FanDuel is not a direction that I'm really looking to go.
FanDuel, I don't love. Or DraftKings. Would I consider him? Yeah, he got in some foul trouble in each of his last 2 games. Could he get up over 30 minutes? Yeah, sure, I guess. But I can't say I'm thrilled about it either.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather just play Hernan Gomez at power forward.
Agreed. What do you want to do with Dallas? Because this is outside of DeAndre Jordan and to a lesser extent some Harrison Barnes. I'm mostly good. Like, Luka is essentially the opposite of Hernan Gomez in that it's the most steady performance and there's not a lot of variance in what he's doing. I will barely get him. I rarely get him. I'd be shocked if I was even at 1/4 of his ownership on FanDuel.
See, I'd actually push back on that.
Hit me.
Generally speaking, I think 100% you're dead on. I mean, just the most static production ever. But we still don't have a status on Dennis Smith, and he's going to be a game time decision. So if we get this before actual game time, Luka Doncic, since Dennis Smith Jr. has been out, has definitely offered, I think, a higher ceiling, or not only that, just a higher average. Like, so Dennis Smith Jr., his last game was on the 13th, but Doncic played on the 16th against Sacramento, had the 9-assist game. I'm pretty sure Dennis Smith missed games prior to that, right? So he played on the 13th and didn't play prior to that until the 4th. So between the 4th and the 13th, he didn't play. Doncic had the 24, 10, and 6 starting at point guard against Atlanta. He had a few games that you weren't really accustomed to seeing with Dennis Smith in the rotation. So I do think, for me at least, and I still don't think I'm going to have a ton of Doncic, but if Dennis Smith Jr. is out, even if Barea plays, whatever, if Smith Jr. is out again and you're getting Doncic as just like an even heavier ball handling role, then I do think that he has a higher ceiling just based on more assist opportunities, and he's been better in that front, and he's kind of has that jack of all trades skill set. But when you're adding in, the 3 or 4 more potential assists per game, I do think it helps him. But that's the only pushback I would have on that.
No, and I get it. I mean, it's not like I would be mad that I got him, because I know that he is not going to crater my lineup one way or the other.
Right, sure. He's not a perfect price, right? Like, actually, I think 76 on FanDuel is not bad if Smith is out. But
would you rather have him or D'Angelo Russell at 7,300?
Oh, I would rather have, if Smith is in or out.
We'll put him out.
Definitely would rather have Doncic.
Okay.
But and I think, by the way, differentiating between cash and GPPs, if you're playing cash, Doncic, assuming Smith is out too, is definitely a better play than Russell.
100%.
No question.
It's not even up for debate. Unless we really think that the Dallas road narrative is legitimate.
Sure.
Like, super legitimate, I mean. But yeah, I think, no doubt about it. Much better cash play.
Right. In tournaments, you could convince me one way or the other, no problem, because Russell does have actually, Russell, from everything we know, has a higher ceiling than Doncic. So yeah,
it does. DeAndre Jordan looks great. 7K on FanDuel, 6,800 on DraftKings. I'm happy to take whatever I get of him. Otherwise, like, this is just it. Dallas is just not an appealing spot from a fantasy perspective tonight.
I got nothing else. DeAndre Jordan is really just a fine, I'll do it type of play because he's so cheap.
What's his life been like against Jokic? Any idea?
I can tell you.
Yeah. I'll be able to beat you to it.
Go for it.
I might not be able to, at least not today.
I got it here.
Yeah, well, I don't.
All right. So DeAndre's last 10 games against Denver. So I'll just give you his fantasy point totals. 40, 23, 37, 35, 36, 54, 32, 48, 62, 51. But that goes all the way back to 2015. So, if you're really only going to glean so much from that. His last, I'd say, against Jokic, I could go to Basketball Reference and really look at each one where how many minutes both of them played in each. But
Right.
I think what we can take from this is that he's been fine.
Yeah.
He's been fine. Nothing good, nothing great, but right around. Actually, let's see. He's been over a fantasy point per minute in these spots by a healthy margin.
Yeah. Look, he looks good. It's really, there aren't that many real center options today that have absolutely no barrier for them. DeAndre Jordan is going to play 30 minutes unless something goes dramatically wrong with him, injury or foul trouble. He is as safe as it gets from a playing time standpoint.
Yep.
Unless they're going to be running out Dirk to play the 5 against Jokic.
It's hard to believe that's the case.
Probably going to get eaten up a bit.
Oh God, I'd actually feel bad for him.
Yeah.
That would be really bad.
Yeah, I think we're done.
I think that's it. Not bad. Not bad.
Adam on the deep dive today, right?
That's it.
That'll be out this afternoon. Deeper dive from 5 to 6, going through this again, and then myself and Chris Baggs taking it all the way up to lock.
There you have it. Early bird too, if you're going to be up late.
Yeah.
We'll have that out around probably 11, 12 midnight Eastern time.
Yeah. NBA Strategies, the promo code, 7-day free trial. Any package you want, including Fantasy Cruncher. Come join us. It won't cost you a single cent. 24 days of giveaways. We're coming up to Christmas soon. The big giveaway, Christmas Eve, a year of premium all access annual. Cannot beat that deal. All you have to do, like this video, which you should have done already, and then comment. Do we have a good comment today?
You're asking the wrong guy. I'm sorry, Josh.
You're all right. Okay.
Prepared me for this one.
I got one for you. It's a good one
All
too.
right, let's do it.
Give us the guard that scores the most fantasy points out of Jamal Murray, Lonzo Ball, and Trae Young. Who wins that 3-way matchup from a fantasy perspective? Who's the guy that puts you to the top?
All right, I'm gonna go with. Dude, that's really difficult. That's a really tough question. Yeah, I actually have Lonzo projected for fewer fantasy points than both of them.
Okay.
But right now I have Murray and Trae Young with the identical projections. God, this is gonna suck.
I'll take Murray. I have Murray, not like a lot ahead, but 34.5 for Murray, 32.9 for Ball, 31.7 for Trae Young.
Okay, and you have Young's minutes at 29. You said, right?
I do.
Okay. Yeah, it's
there
a
you
tough
go, everybody.
one for sure.
Pick your poison. Let us know in the comment section. You have the opportunity to win a 1-month subscription to the sport of your choice. Won't cost you a cent. All you have to do is like and comment. That is it. Best of luck, everybody. Anything else from you, Lofty?
No, man. Good show. I'll see you guys back here at 5 tonight.
There we go. Adios, everybody.